It's been quite dry across Oklahoma through the months of August and September, with areas beginning to develop moderate to severe drought conditions across much of the state. Now, it's not nearly as dry in the state as it was during the infamous Dust Bowl of the 1930s, but a lack of rain wasn't the only reason behind those dirty old dust storms. To start, Oklahoma's population grew significantly after the Homestead Acts and the Oklahoma land runs of the 1880s and 90s. Advancements in agricultural technology were being made, which meant that more farmers were cultivating more land while using less labor to do it. Now, unfortunately, even though the machinery being used to till the soil was new and improved, years of deeply plowing the soil uprooted a lot of the strong prairie grasses that once held the soil in place. Now, another important factor were the cowboys and cattle ranchers that fed their grazing cattle on Oklahoma's prairie grasses. Overgrazing slowly created a pretty barren-looking landscape. And yes, a significant drought gripped the state in the early 1930s that made ripe conditions for dust storms across land that was already very susceptible to erosion. Now, whether it was up in Woodward or Enid or even here in Oklahoma City, nearly all weather recording stations saw below average rainfall throughout the 1930s. Our average yearly rainfall has grown since then, but back in the 1930s, we averaged just about 33 inches of rain per year in Oklahoma City. And you can see here that from 1933 to 1936, all those years saw below normal rainfall. And heck, 1936 alone saw a rainfall deficit of over 14 inches in Oklahoma City. So the point is, dry and windy conditions combined with the already loosened soil created a terrible scenario for Oklahomans. Dust storms engulfed Oklahoma, with some of the worst raging through the state between 1935 and 1938. Even worse, the Great Depression gripped the country from coast to coast. But thankfully for Oklahomans, President Roosevelt signed the Soil Conservation and Domestic Allotment Act into law in 1936 to help protect land resources against soil erosion. So even though we're fairly dry across much of Oklahoma right now, we're in a much better place than we were in the 1930s. So no dust bowls for us. For Fox 25, I'm meteorologist Ross Mummah.